Hello, and welcome to this demonstration of Surgo Health's Mosaic platform. Today, we'll be viewing a custom instance of Mosaic focused around women's health. In particular, this instance is powered by our contraceptive data library that you can see on the top left-hand side of your screen. Before jumping into a workflow, I will shortly walk through the data library itself and how the data is structured to allow you to have a little bit of context before we proceed in the demonstration. The data library is organized into themes, subthemes, and indicators. You can see here on the left, we have our themes. These are just categories to make the data a little bit more digestible. When I click on a theme, you'll see the subthemes drop down. By clicking on a subtheme, I'll create a nationwide heat map. If I click into a particular state, we'll see that the left-hand panel has updated. You can interpret the subtheme scores as composite scores of the underlying indicators here. You can see for lack of access to facility, there are numerous indicators such as OBGYN accessibility, PCP accessibility, Planned Parenthood or community clinic as source of birth control, etc. And what this median tag means is just translated to its percentile. So this shows that California falls between the 40th and 59th percentile for lack of access to facilities. Now let's jump into our workflow. I'm going to reset the map, and now we're going to conduct a region search. So let's say that we want to find counties across the United States that are contraceptive uptake deserts, but have low barriers to care. These are counties that show potential for impact. They have low barriers, but a great need. So first, we're going to move to our data library, go into contraceptive care access, and I'm going to choose lack of access to facilities, in which I'm going to choose 0 to the 20th percentile. We want to find counties with plenty of facilities here, and so this is not a problem for these patients to receive access. Next, we're going to go down to contraceptive need and uptake. We're going to define our uptake desert and choose the 80th to 100th percentile. These are areas where the uptake deserts are quite prominent. And then finally, we'll choose our health engagement barriers, and we'll put this to 0 to the 40th percentile. Again, looking for counties with low barriers, and then I'll click apply. We've now surfaced 31 counties across the United States that fit our criteria. In particular, we can see Georgia has quite a few counties of need. So clicking into one here, we can see the pop-up for Floyd County. Now, Floyd County, we can see some quick statistics. They have a population of nearly 100,000 individuals, a percent minority of 30.6, median income of around $62,000, and percent no insurance of 14.6, which is actually rather high for a county. Clicking into the full profile, we can see the local context here. So these are all of our themes and sub-theme scores. When we look at comorbidities, we can see both chronic conditions and STIs are quite high. What we searched on here, we can see lack of access to facilities is very low. So they do have options within the area. There's a moderate lack of trust around contraceptives, but very high side effect concerns, something that messaging may be able to affect. It is a prominent uptake desert, and they do face significant socioeconomic barriers, indicating that this is a community that could really benefit from an increase in social mobility and economic opportunity. So next I'm going to move over to our cohort builder to show how we can find health centers and providers in this area to partner with and better understand the patients that live here. For efficiency's sake, I have pre-configured a cohort here. Now, what our cohort builder does is it searches through a national provider database for any of the assigned criteria that we've defined. In this case, I've pinpointed Rome, Georgia as a city we want to look at, as that is the biggest city within Floyd County. Next, all I did was look for the most active providers within the contraceptive space in this city. So looking at number of patients they have prescribed contraceptives and the total number of patients they see overall. We've surfaced 4 providers. Interestingly enough, they all work for the same health center, Northwest Georgia Medical Clinic. Now, let's look at Dr. Vick's profile here and dig a little deeper. Clicking into the profile, when we first enter, we can see some basic information about the provider, their primary practice location, the address, and in this case, we have Dr. Vick's email in case we want to reach out. Now, the provider profile is quite vast, so I'm going to jump around a bit and highlight some of the more pertinent points. First, I'll call your attention down here to the bottom right, contraceptive utilization compared to state average. Here, we'll look at the provider's contraceptive prescribing mix compared to the state that they're located in this case, Georgia. And Dr. Vick has quite an interesting mix. You can see he prescribes the pill at a far lesser rate than the average provider within Georgia, in this case 48% to 69.5%, and then is also much more active in prescribing the shot, IUD, and implant than the typical Georgia provider. With the IUD, he's prescribing at almost a 3x rate to the average provider, and with the implant, over 2x. Next, let's jump to our patient population tab to understand the actual patients that this provider is seeing. For this data in the environment, we've actually joined our individual level data assets to claims data. So we can see information on the actual contraceptive patients that Dr. Vick sees. Here we can see overall in the last year, he's seen over 1,500 patients, and then is prescribing and counseling around 150 patients. And then additionally, we have some information around obese patients. This is configurable, and we can surface data on multiple comorbidities depending upon the interest of our client. Finally, we have a demographic comparison where you can see a breakdown of these patients' race and ethnicity, the insurance they have. In this case, we can see quite a few are on Medicaid compared to the average Georgia provider, and the age breakdown. So here we can see that Dr. Vick is primarily seeing 26 to 30-year-olds and 31 to 35-year-olds. All right, now let's take a look at the patient concerns tab. Now, this is particularly interesting if you are looking to create a targeted messaging campaign, because here we can see the actual side effects or other concerns that are on the top of patients' minds and may affect their general willingness to be on contraceptives or affect the contraceptive method that they end up choosing. To highlight a few here, we can see that Dr. Vick's patients score very high when it comes to being concerned that contraceptives affect acne, that 45%, which indicates a high level, believe that contraceptives could cause infertility, and that 35% are concerned that contraceptives affect hormones. You can see by taking these very specific concerns into account and having that knowledge at a hyper-local level, you can tailor messaging campaigns to have the highest possible lift for the community that you're looking to work with. This concludes today's demonstration of Surgo Health's Mosaic platform. Thank you for your time, and I hope you have a great day.